Welcome back to Dateline New Haven on WNHH-FM, New Haven's home for community radio. I'm Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make New Haven tick. It's that time again of the week when we look at all the headlines that you've been reading about New Haven and get the experts, the pundits, the WNHH pundits, Thursday pundits, telling you what it all means, what we should think about it. Good morning, everyone. So nice to see you. Good morning, church. Babs Rolls-Ivy, host of Love Babs, Love Talk, and the editor of the Inner City, Markeisha Ricks, career journalist, mentor of the next generation.
Hola.
And Arts Papers, Lucy Gilman. A woman you see everywhere all the time if you're not seeing Babs Rolls-Ivy. Thanks, everybody. Yeah. So I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Who said the following?
Uh-oh.
I love uh-oh. If he comes to my store, I cannot pick up the phone because he threatens me that if you call the cops, I'm going to kill you. We call the cops. They're gone for 2 minutes. Then they come back.
I don't know, but I want a Paul Bass dramatic reading of
I know.
Well, you're going to get a bunch today because these are all New Haven independent stories that were recently written and that raised issues that I find interesting. That I need the pundits to tell me. This is the first time and the last time
Can I have a context clue?
ever that Lucy Gilman will not get the answer instantly before I finish reading the quote.
But
I had to dig deep. I had to dive deep.
Yeah, you got it right the last time.
Well, Babs
Listen,
gets
I'm the one batting zero.
But you see, the difference, Babs, is she spends all night talking to a roommate about every quote.
I do. That's right.
Who writes them. Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't
So
have
this
that.
quote was from
their love language.
Harry Patel. He runs Paramount Liquors at Whaley and Winthrop, a block up from Edge of the Woods. Mm-hmm. And they've been trying to shut that place down.
No, they haven't.
Yes, they have.
Oh, really?
Shafiq Abdul-Sabor in the neighborhood. They had a petition to state
I was about
liquor
to say, because
control.
it don't look like it.
State liquor
I need to
control.
put my chair out there.
State liquor. Well, I've gone there. It's not a great place to shop. Like, they don't have good selection of the beer and the.
It's not for.
Forget the
it's
bourbon
definitely not
there.
They're not catering to.
Like when you and I talk about the bourbons we like, they're not there.
It's no Boss beverage, Babs.
Yeah.
It's no
It's
Boss
not.
beverage.
And actually, that came up. That Boss beverage.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
is it Boss Beverage or Beverage Boss?
Beverage Boss.
Okay.
I'm just
Thank
for
you,
the
Lucy.
sake of
I think they should change
So
their name
Paramount
to Boss
Liquors at
Beverage
Whaley
Boss.
and Winthrop is a magnet for trouble for that neighborhood. So the neighbors are trying to shut it down for more than a year. Shafiq Abdul-Sabor, the Alder, and a lot of neighbors, the Whaley Improvement folks, even though their organization is responsible for some pretty nasty blight. But, we'll leave that for another day. It used to be run by the guy they were trying to shut down at the building department. But that's a different day. New day, new problem. Paramount Liquors, they're trying to shut it down because it hangs out there. The neighboring businesses have problems with people. But that's what Harry said at the hearing. They're talking about renewing the license. They spent hours. They had to have 2 hearings. So many people spoke against it. And he said, I'm doing everything you want me to do. But people come in, they threaten us. And I can't say you're someone who's already drunk all the time. You can't always check it out. We have the surveillance cameras. We go to the police come. But people are often, they get some major crime. They come right back. They're working with them. So they haven't decided yet what to do. Other people say you're not doing what you need to do to keep that place a good neighbor. They're saying, why is Beverage Boss? They said Beverage Boss. So why is Beverage Boss so much place? Oh, there have been some interesting interactions there, too. He said that's different because there are no fast food places right there where people are always hanging out and then coming there, which is not true. It's just an extra.
Like down the block from McDonald's.
McDonald's. Yeah. So that just isn't true.
Right.
Beverage Boss is a large operation.
It is.
I mean, it's sort of like an armed camp when you go in there.
But it also, it's very brightly lit.
It's
well
a nicer
kept
place.
Outside. People are not loitering outside.
Right. It's same clientele.
Same clientele. I think people go literally from there to across the street. Like, same people.
Yeah. So what do you think? And this is similar to bodega stuff. We've heard similar.
What
things
have they been
bodega.
asked to do though? Like, can you tell me that? Like, can you tell me a bit more about what they've been?
Stop the loitering.
Okay.
Stop the people. Don't be serving liquor to people causing problems already drunk.
Mm-hmm.
But it's similar to bodega, the corner bodega in Fairhaven. They're trying to shut down. We talked to that owner.
Right.
They shoot. He said,
but he's not a bodega. Not selling food. They're just selling liquor in there.
Well,
right?
that is going to be one of the issues. So at the bodega, the guy said they were trying to shut him down forever. I talked to this guy, another immigrant owner, and he said, these guys threaten me. They come outside, and I say, don't come in.
I never see people doing this at Wine Thief.
Right, so we're talking about class here.
Maybe they should raise their prices.
I don't see people gathering at Wine Thief,
which are more upscale areas. I don't know what to say about that.
You know what I'm gonna say about it? It's what the hell you sell in there.
So you're talking about nips? Because you're getting a dangerous territory here, Babs.
This what you sell in there.
Okay.
If I go in there right
But
now,
I will
I'm not gonna find a good bottle of Sancerre.
But is this
But I will
classist?
say, like, even the places around downtown, around Chapel Street area. So College Street, there's on the other side, there's another place, and then Wine Thief is on the back side, right?
And the other one that's
Which is
right
really
there
nice.
Two, like
across
literally
from Tiamo.
yeah,
Yes.
that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wine-
like
Wine
that
Thief
one.
is
So
nice.
literally
Yeah.
on three sides of that big block are
Three
three different places
the
that
former,
sell alcohol.
the former Chapel Square Mall.
And they don't have.
I don't see people out there.
loitering. Like I do see, because downtown, that the two that are closest to the green, they're closer to people who are going to probably go across and buy nips and things like that. But I don't know if it's because of what we have going on downtown, as far as the police department being right there on the green,
And special
the ambassadors,
services.
special services. So
I think
people
it's what they sell.
but they're selling all the same things. But I think because there's a I don't want to say surveillance, but yeah, surveillance.
It's a surveillance state there.
But there's more opportunity for people saying you can't stand right here. You got to keep moving.
Because you know where else
not
they do
even
this
close.
at?
To Marquisha's
You
point,
know where
it's
else
not
they
even
do
close.
it? On Shelton, all the way down Shelton Avenue, almost to the Hamden
Yep, I know
border.
that place.
There's another little liquor store, and I drive by there. Same kind of vibe. It's gazillion people, mostly men, hanging out right there from the time it opens to the time it
There's
closes.
a place on Howard Avenue as well. Or is it on Howard Avenue? Like when we are going to like City Point, going out to West Havens Beach on Sundays, there's a little bodega there that's where people are just loitering, where they're just hanging out.
And in Fairhaven, the poor guy, I mean, like the gang is in front, and he called the police. They were going to kill you if you keep calling the police.
But they don't
And then
do it
get
at the
shooting.
little wine store, though. There's a wine store right there on Grand Avenue.
Oh,
right
you
over
mean the one on the
bridge.
bridge? Yeah.
Vin.
That is a different neighborhood.
Okay.
It's so interesting though how those things don't cross the street though.
I don't mean
right?
I don't mean to put down your point at all. I'm trying to get
No,
at the point.
I don't feel put down
But
at
you
all.
guys-
I just think it's what they sell.
So Babs and Marquisha made 2 points. Babs made the point about what they sell, nips, and that was a big debate. Remember the Independent, Lucy? I mean, like saying, is that classist? So people don't have as much money. If you're a white wine alcoholic in a white collar job, you're not going to buy a nip.
It's
I
not
don't know.
even a
Nips
nip.
are kind of upscale these days.
Yeah, because we buy nips all the time. If you get rid of that malt liquor,
But what about? But that's a downscale market. So what about people who want malt liquor?
Then you know what? Then they have to go into the bigger places and just buy that because they sell it at Boss Beverage or Beverage Boss.
They need to change that.
Isn't that a funny name? I think it's a hilarious name.
I think Boss Beverage is better.
Oh yeah.
We're
I
gonna
agree.
change
try to.
it.
Maybe that'll
I
be a
agree.
poll.
But
Does the Indies
We can
still
go
do
steal the
polls?
sign at night. But yeah.
Can we do that poll?
Yeah, yeah.
Would
But
you
I
like the
also-
name to be changed?
I also think though that
Great
like
idea, Lucy.
for whatever reason, because is that place an immigrant owned place as well? Like they've decided that we're not going to let you trash our business. Like we want people to feel fine coming in here. And they sell all the things, but they're like, you can't loiter here. Like, and I don't know what they're doing differently.
And
but if
it's
I
also
were Paramount Liquor, I would go ask.
And the other place further up, Whaley Avenue, has the same problem with people congregating outside there.
Oh yeah,
space
going
too.
towards Westfield.
Yep,
like
going
that,
towards
where the
Westfield on the
barbershops and
right-hand
stuff
Oh,
are.
that
side.
place is a regular group of junkies. Really, I see
Yes.
it because I walk by them every day, and they're not mean or anything like that. They
But-
don't bother me.
but
But like,
when you go
it's a real
further-
scene.
but
That
when
place by
you-
Blake Street,
But when you go further up to the package, the liquor store,
which is very nice.
by Dunkin' Donuts, you don't get none of that.
Okay, now one
I
difference
think-
again I'm going to say is
I
that
feel like you have to peel back the layers though. Like I'd be very curious as to, maybe this is a good reporter story, what is actually going on right here, and like why does it happen at certain places and not other places?
That is so
and not even if
interesting.
you get to the upscale, like whether it's the Wine Thief or whatever.
Right.
But literally these are competitors in the same communities. And
So
so
interesting.
obviously to me it seems like somebody's not telling the truth when we talk about why it's happening in front of your place, and it's not just being threatened. You get some advantage, whether it's a few coins, you think that's your clientele, you think there's some advantage, and it's enough, like putting up with it is enough for you. Because I don't know about anybody else, but if I was having that trouble and could not figure it out, I would just close my place and go
why
somewhere
go
else.
on
I was
No,
like,
this
why
is
would I
so
want to be in business
interesting.
here? Because I don't want to be involved in this.
I really think it's the. I
so
think
there
it's
is
the
some
product.
advantage to that owner to
and a decision.
consistently
So
do
that
those
becomes of
people.
where should liquor stores be. So every example Babs gave was
It's
in a
the product.
lower income
I don't
area.
get- it's the product.
But Babs, look at the two you gave on Whaley Avenue, and I walk by both each day. You talked about two liquor stores that are so close to each other and are so dramatically different. That's why you made the point of who hangs out there and what they sell. Now here's, I would argue, part of the difference. The one that has the scene of all day and night, and there was a murder in front of it, all day and night, addicted people and not just liquor hanging out in front. And again, they never bother me when we're by. They're at Whaley in the first Blake. closer downtown. They're right next to two separate social service agencies for addicts and people coming out of prison.
Let me tell you something.
And they're in a neighborhood where most people are lower
Paul,
income.
if they changed the product, if they got rid of all that malt liquor mess, put it, or even if they just limited it and changed what they sold in there, those people wouldn't be there
I agree
anymore.
with that. But can I continue the point? Because what Marquise said. So if you go down to the other place in Westville Village, there are plenty of low-income people there, but they're amidst in walking distance of high-income people. So even though it's only a mile left, it's New Haven where the whole world changes every few blocks. They're in the midst of businesses that cater. Yes, they're next to Dunkin' Donuts and people ride the bus, but they're also around a lot of businesses that also go to upscale people, like 2 restaurants that are incredibly expensive and a lot of homes that not far that sell for $200,000, $500,000.
But in the Hill on Spring Street, the package store that sits right there, they don't have that problem. They don't have that problem. I've never seen it.
So I wondered, based on what Marquisha said, she said she would close up if she were there. Because if you're going to be at that first Whaley Blake, I don't think you're going to get the clientele to come in.
How do
even
you-
though
I think-
don't know. I'm wondering whether they
I don't agree. I mean, I spend a lot of money in places like this. Not that place, but I think if you create the product, you put the product that would attract a certain clientele will come.
Is that gentrification though?
Because I don't want to sell more liquor?
Because
I
you don't
don't
want
drink-
you don't want the
I
people,
don't drink malt
but you don't
liquor.
want but the people who live near the Trouble Whaley one are more likely to buy malt liquor than the people who live and work to the other Whaley
I
one.
don't think that's gentrification.
So let me just jump in before.
By the way, I don't
like, whether
either. I
it's-
was challenging you, Babs, because
Whether
I think
it's
this is interesting.
gentrification or not, though, like this,
And maybe it's
this
okay,
goes to a point that
gentrification.
I've actually asked, and I still don't have an answer to. And then Westville is a good example. So remember when that little the wine shop that is next door to the Dunkin' Donuts in Westville Center was across the street
Yeah.
and across Whaley Avenue, and it wasn't a wine and spirit store. I think it was a liquor store. And when it moved across the street, it became a wine and spirit store. And so the fact that a place like Wine Thief is a wine and spirit store, and in certain neighborhoods, and you see this all over like New York and all major cities, where certain
Where were
communities,
they on? Where were they?
they were literally where the across from Wawa, across Whaley Avenue, where the
Yeah,
the
where-
candy shop man used to
near
be.
Keller
they were a
Liddell.
wine and
They-
spirit
Yeah,
shop.
They were wine and spirits, and they used to have
yeah.
tastings and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, they did.
It was a
'Cause
really, it was a really nice
I spent
place.
a lot of time in there.
But it's interesting
They've
to
actually
me
gone down a
that
little bit.
exactly they look like a
Yeah.
liquor store now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Even
do.
though they're still calling themselves a wine and spirit, because they know, like, even though they look like a liquor store, they know that it's appealing to that neighborhood to be considered a wine and spirit store. Same type of situation, but people have the idea that in a different store, in a different neighborhood, this is a liquor store, even though both of them are liquor stores.
So more-
So
so-
I always wonder, like you're definitely trying to say something when you when you want to be
Oh, yeah,
a
who's
wine
your
store
clientele?
and not a liquor store.
And you guys are both making the point, who's your clientele are you selling to? Do you
Right.
think that people in...
And my point is that there is what I'm saying, it's even not
There's some
about
advantage for
there's
you
some
being a
advantage
liquor
to the
store.
people who are a liquor store and not doing anything
I
to
agree.
curtail the behavior
Right.
that happens, because you're a business. Most business owners feel some sense of control about who they let in there. Like, I went into Jazzy's and I had my ball cap on, and I didn't know they had a rule about no fitteds. And I'm like, I'm
Why?
a girl, but okay.
No what?
But I was no
No
hats. You
fitted
cannot
cap.
wear a fitted
Why?
hat. That's
'Cause
their
that's
they
their
have
rule.
that's their rule.
What about yarmulke? They let me in when I had a yarmulke.
It's not a fitted hat.
That's
It's different. So, like, if Babs goes into Jazzy's today, they're going to ask her to remove her hat
Wow.
because that's their dress. They have a dress code rule, right? So, no fitted hats. And, you know, if I don't like that, then I don't go to Jazzy's, right? But I didn't know. I could have got an attitude. I could have tried to tear up the place.
You know,
But
I
they
love this
also would have
issue.
had me banned from
you
the
got,
premises.
You guys have me think about so many things. So Marquisha, so the question in the end becomes responsibility of the owner, what they decide to do. You're both saying that.
Yeah.
And also what neighborhoods want. So if you're in a neighborhood that it's mostly renters and it's lower income, neighbors often unite to try to get rid of bars and corner stores. So to what extent is the nature of the business and who's going to end up being the clientele the issue in those neighborhoods have every right not to want those businesses there? Or is it that you think responsible owners can be anywhere, like you're saying, Spring Street, Babs, and it's not the nature of the business, it's who owns it and how
Responsible
it's
owners
run.
could be anywhere.
Absolutely. And
I mean,
if you decide, now I get it. If you feel like being a responsible owner doesn't allow you to make the kind of profit that makes it okay for you to feel like, oh, I'm getting something out of this, and the neighborhood's getting something out of this, and cool. And most people are about themselves, right? They're like, I bet you if you go to that business owner right now and ask him, does he live in the neighborhood? And he's like, crazy. I wouldn't dare. I live in Brantford. So like, and you know, do what you do. Okay. That's your business. But I'm saying he, beyond this thing that he's doing in the community, and he doesn't see himself as a bad actor, right? Like he sees himself as someone who's a businessman. I'm just trying to run my business the best that I know how. These are the clients that I try to attract. Now, I don't know, when he started his business, maybe he wanted to attract a different type of clientele. Maybe he didn't. If he bought that business from somebody who also was like, this is the clientele and I'm going to serve them for whatever they want, then this is what I have to do. But if you have a commitment to that neighborhood, if you actually care about it, then you're going to work with the powers that be, the community, the police, to make sure that yours looks just like what's going on at Beverage Boss.
The bodegas are a little more complicated because like at Peck and Ferry, where they had the daylight shooting, the guy fell in front, and the immigrant always tell me, they threatened to kill me, and he was outside my store. A bodega, the neighborhoods kind of need that. They need places to go get groceries, to get their lunches there and stuff.
They do, but
he's
cannot
saying, like,
business owners, I mean, the police department have after-hour duties all the time.
I'm sorry.
If you wanted to hire security, you could hire security.
I just...
It's your choice not to do so. That's not how you want to spend your profits.
Good point, up Dixwell Avenue, Happy Harry's doesn't have this problem. Why doesn't Happy Harry has this problem? Right there in the New Haven.
Amity doesn't have it.
Amity doesn't. Listen, Nico's could be considered a bodega too, right? They sell food and groceries. They don't have this problem. Ain't nobody standing outside of Nico's shooting and carrying on, hanging out.
And the same for the Westville Quality Market. They've had issues. They've been robbed, but they don't, like, people will sit outside. They put nice little tables out for people to sit at. Like, nobody's out there drunk. And if they are, they quietly drunk. They like, I'm going to just be drunk and mind my business. But people aren't out there doing that. And I used to live in the little house next door to the Quality Market.
Yes, and that is why, as you can see
I
here,
never felt unsafe. I would always be surprised when they got robbed. Like,
well, anyone who's been listening for the last few minutes has no doubt that the best pundits in the business that help you understand the real issues going to New Haven are Babs Ivy, Marquise Shirks, and Lucy Gelman here on Pundit Thursday.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is the first time, Lucy.
No, that's okay. I've just really enjoyed
on
listening
Pundit
to this.
Thursday, WNHH New Haven's home for community radio. Run down the headlines. Here's another quote. Who said this?
Uh-oh.
Quote, $40.5 billion, close quote. It's a trick question, folks.
It is.
Babs knows what I'm talking about.
Is this pandemic money?
Nope.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about. Okay.
I was going to say Tesla, but that's too low.
Nope. Okay. The answer to who said that last week was nobody. The candidates for state treasurer had the first forum.
Oh, they didn't have
in
an answer. I
Westville,
saw that.
and the person said, what is the unfunded pension liability for the state pension fund?
I saw that.
And the candidate said, we don't know.
Cool.
Now, it's not like we're smarter. I don't know either. But our reporter, Kimberly Whitfield, did find out that it's $40.5 billion. So the question was, if running for state treasurer, should you know what the state's unfunded pension liability is?
Yes.
It's a gotcha. There's no question it's a gotcha. Yeah.
I mean, it's a gotcha.
I think the answers were responsible, which is we can get back to you on that.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they said we don't want to give a number that's wrong.
Right.
Because I just think,
and you can get the number if you have the job.
I mean, there's so many other things that you would have to know. You have to know. So
And you have to know how to get the answer.
listen, when you get in there,
And
they're
I'm
gonna tell you.
And I'm more concerned that a person knows where to find the answer
Okay,
than
here's
if they have the answer in their head.
Yeah.
Good. And let me ask you this. Here's another trick question.
Uh-oh.
I'm not going to say who said the following, but out of whose mouth did these words come? Ready? Can't we get along? All day long? I think it's time we do.
Somebody white?
Yeah, it sounds like something.
Although
else.
Rodney King wasn't white, but this wasn't Rodney King.
Oh.
No, I know. When you put the other part to it, I was like, that sounds like somebody white.
That sounds white. Not
And see, in my head, I was like, is it the mayor?
Well, you notice I
he
didn't
would
say
sing
said.
it.
But he had
Yes, Lucy's onto something.
that he would sing it.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
sing it?
it was sung.
What?
Oh,
That's
was
not
this
surprising to me.
The gospel. Oh no, sorry.
No, that was
He
2
was
weeks
singing
ago.
somewhere else again?
Not him.
Oh, okay.
You don't have the right person.
Okay.
Who sang those words? It's up on the New Haven Independent right now. It was not our most read story. One of our most read stories yesterday. The man who came to New Haven in 1981 trying to impress
Hinckley.
John Hinckley Jr.
Oh, yeah.
the guy that shot right
He
now?
watched
Yes,
Taxi.
6 times. Well, 6 bullets. Sorry.
Oh yeah,
he
I
watched
saw that
Taxi
story.
Driver in 1981. Was in love with Jodie Foster, who was then older. And Yale. I was there then. The place became crazy. You remember that, Babs? And he came to New Haven to stalk her, and then he went to D.C. and shot Ronald Reagan, thinking that would impress her.
Killed his press secretary.
They didn't kill him.
He didn't. He didn't.
James Brady.
Jodie Foster, the actress who is
Yeah.
very lesbian.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Oh.
So James Brady
been-
got a brain disease. He became the leader of a successful drive for gun control, the Brady Act.
Yeah.
So this guy, John Hinckley Jr., tried to kill the president. He spent 40 years in federal custody, mental institution. He just got out, and he's launched a singer-songwriter career.
As one does.
And he just sold out a venue in
live
New
your
York.
dream, sir.
And one of his first stops was going to be the Space Ballroom.
Can he sing
What?
though?
It's horrible.
Oh,
I was
be
gonna say,
honest.
and also,
The songs are horrible.
who's
and
going
he's-
to see him?
because
He
people want
sold
to
it.
see. They want
Is he sold out?
I
He
think
sold
people wanna
out in New
see-
York.
Yeah.
He sold out in New York. So the tickets went on sale for the Space
How
Ballroom.
much are these tickets?
I don't know. So when Space Ballroom announced the show this week, they got pilloried on social media, and they canceled it last night.
I'm not surprised.
What do you think, Lucy? Arts paper editor.
Me.
Yes, you.
Oh. I mean,
Because my mind changed on something based on the New Haven Independent comments.
Oh. Interesting. Well, and I did not read I guess I should have read the comments section.
No,
for
you
the- I
shouldn't.
mean, there's part of me that says free speech should be allowed, even though this person perpetrated a pretty vile act of, it's a very hideous act of violence, and I hate guns. So part of me says free speech. He served his time. I don't believe in prisons, but that's another conversation.
He wasn't in
entirely.
prison. He was in a mental hospital.
And then there's part of me that says, why are we having people pay money to see this person sing? So, yeah, I want to hear what the comments
Sounds
are.
conflicted.
Well, before I
Yes.
get to what I think
Yeah, I'm
about it,
conflicted. Is anyone
I
else
do have a-
I
conflicted?
think he has the right to.
I
Yeah,
think
he has the right to do whatever he
present.
wants. That
He
is
served,
Yes, the right to
he served
perform,
whatever,
yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
we said the punishment for that crime was. He did it.
Yeah.
Now,
and the federal judge said he's no danger to society now. He had a mental illness. And
I mean, the only danger is to your ears at this point, right? 'Cause he'll kill you with the music, but
Yeah, I mean, free speech. So
Not
what
kidding.
did
we don't
it
like
say?
second chances in this country. We don't like it.
No, that's true.
We
right,
just don't
like,
like it.
it's the kind of the once a murderer, always a murderer type of thing. So yeah,
And no matter
So-
what the crime is, once you've done it,
you're
You're
forever
forever-
with
So
your.
I think one
your
issue,
scarlet letter.
ethical issue here has to do with a fact that can never be a fact.
Mm.
Is he any good?
Apparently,
you
he's
why I think
terrible. You
that-
said.
But there
Yeah,
are a lot of bad. I mean, like
Yeah.
I'm going to get in hot water here, but New Haven's MO is kind of like good venues, bad music a lot of the
I disagree.
time.
Oh, yes. Sometimes, yeah.
A lot of the time, and we have very
So
talented musicians.
I'll tell you
but
why I said that is that I think we would all agree he has a right to make the music.
yes,
We would all agree that he has a right. People have a right to go see him. The people were critical of the promoters because they said, you're not hiring him because the music's good. You think you could make a buck off of the notoriety of his crime.
well, that's what you
Now-
do as a promoter.
I mean,
But-
listen, we live in a country that made a buck off people.
Right, but if he,
Yes, Val.
but as Markeisha Ricks just pointed out in the
What do we
liquor
say?
store conversation, you can make choices as an owner on how you make
Can
the
make
bucks and what
choices.
that does. So I would argue that if John Hinckley was a really good singer-songwriter, first of all, he should go do it. He should do his best. He served his time. He had a mental illness, and as Patricia Kane wrote in the comments, we like to recognize mental illness to support people to make recovery and do positive things in life, right?
Yes.
A song's a good thing, right? So it's, as Markeisha Ricks points out, you do have choice how you make your money. So people are critical saying you're trying to make it cheap, you're not putting out good music. Okay, we can say one person's good music, another person's not good music, although I'm not sure we'd agree on this. So that's why they canceled here. I would argue that if the guy made meaningful, really good music,
Yeah.
I'd want to hear it. And again, not what you're allowed to do, but how we judge it. But Patricia Kane changed my mind because at first I wrote something being a little snarky about his music. And like, I feel like this, like he's a bad guy, but he's not a bad guy. Like, and she pointed out, like, some people with mental illness, they do crimes. We have to keep people safe from themselves and others. And he was in psychiatric care, and then they judged that he's not a danger anymore, so we shouldn't stop him. So we shouldn't dump on him. I think it was fair to question the promoters, but that we shouldn't be mad at John Hinckley.
I do think we have to be careful though, because there are tons of people with mental illnesses
Yes.
who never do anything wrong. They don't harm each other. They don't harm themselves.
Yes,
They
that's
don't harm
right.
other people. So we have to be like, we have to walk a really
Well,
tight
we have to
line
protect
there.
them and others from actions of people who will walk into
Yes.
a building and shoot people up.
Absolutely, but we have to protect regular people who don't have who have no declared mental illness who do that. So I'm always careful of the conversation that automatically assumes because of one's mental illness is why they did a thing. When there are people who have mental illnesses who never do violent things,
Right.
who never pick up a gun, never figure out how to get a gun so they can go shoot up something, right?
I just don't
So we just have to. I want us to take that piece apart. But to your point, like if if I back to the point of a promoter being able to decide what type of business, right? Like that's their choice. If you want to pay your money to see that, that's your business. I'm not paying my money to see that because I'm not particularly interested, but yeah, I don't have to support it, right?
That's kind of how I feel. It's like,
don't go to space that night if you don't like it. Yeah.
Right.
Like, listen, I don't know why Big Frida's concert didn't sell here, but it ended up getting canceled.
Really?
Yeah. She was coming. She was supposed to come to College Street. Then they moved her to the ballroom, and then they canceled it all.
See, that
remember that
should've been a
night we were
sold-out
working
show.
I
together
don't know
before
why
the
that
pandemic? It
happened.
sold out like that. Yeah.
I don't know why that happened, but here we are. So,
and
let it. Like, if people want to go support it, then fine.
So
I
bringing
don't
John
like
Hinckley,
this
not Big Frida.
Well, here's the thing. I don't like the narrative of he's being taken advantage of by some promoters.
No, not he's being taken advantage of. The promoters.
This is what they do. Like,
he's not being taken advantage of the question. Yeah.
I think if the promoters could sell it, then they sell it.
Yeah.
Somebody will dig it. I wouldn't dig it, but there's a lot of stuff I don't dig. So
I've decided to have a little more compassion for him when I realized that I'd also written a lot of bad songs that he used to try to.
But you also, to the opposite point of that, you're not out
Has some of the
trying
same
to
chords.
be somewhere performing in front of people, right? Like so there is an equity issue in that people who are truly talented, who would like to have that opportunity to perform, never get there. They never get that chance. But because he is someone of note, infamous note, that he has this opportunity. So in that level, there's some inequity there. Right. I don't know what to do about that, but like the idea that someone who is only of note because they did this horrible thing has this opportunity to potentially to your point in New York, to perform at a sold out show, and he's not even talented at what he does.
But see, that is like that.
So I'm like,
but I feel like that gets at something like much deeper and very
absolutely.
different. Like, does it get in my craw every single day that Justin Bieber can sell at Madison Square Garden and Fernanda Franco has to work multiple jobs and she's killing it? Like, yes, of course it does. And so I think that's like, there is a global issue at play there.
But also, like him or love him, Justin Bieber actually is talented, right? Like, you might not like his music, but the boy can sing. He can. Like, it might not be the type of singing you like.
Yeah, okay.
But unlike, it sounds like
and that's a
Hinkle
completely
is
different
truly
question. Lucy
not
bring up. It's
very
mass
talented.
culture that rewards certain, which is fine.
Absolutely.
And we're people who would rather go to Cafe 9
if you
or
want to talk
Jazzy's
about
and
somebody
hear
who
music to make us
absolutely
money.
cannot sing, but has, because of auto-tune, maybe has a super, like that would be, I think, a more
Milli Vanilli.
Right, like you can
a fake Milli Vanilli
yeah.
that you can aggressively create something that's not even real. Like, that's a whole different stratosphere.
But it's better than NFTs.
But again, it's not a situation where you've taken, like, if John Hinckley was just a bad singer, we wouldn't know who he is.
Right.
But because he did this thing 40 years ago, we know who he is, and because he's doing this thing, he can use that infamous notoriety to elevate, and then other people are using it to profit as well. Mm-hmm. Like, that's where the ethics for me is a problem, right?
So I will honestly say that my most interesting time any week is listening to the pundits talk about the ethical and tough questions that arise from the news in New Haven, which we're doing right now on WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio. With all hell, another quote. I see if you guys can tell me who said this. Ready?
I'm anticipating a quote that I want, because there's a story that I like that I was like, this is messy.
Go ahead.
I was hoping you're going to give us a Boise Kimber quote from the police stuff.
I do have a police stuff quote.
Okay.
But can I not do it this time, because then it's telling you what story it is?
Because I might forget, though.
I promise. I'll remember. I'm not going to tell you when I'm going to bring up that story. Okay. I'll do a quick one first. Corruption or incompetence? Take your pick.
I mean, that could be any number of stories on the indie.
Wait, no, I feel like I know this one.
I don't know this one. This could be
I'm going to know it
anything.
as soon as you tell it, because I feel like I
Rob
read
N's
this one.
comment in a comment.
That's where I know it from.
Tom Breen's amazing freaking story. He does these real estate stories. They're just so amazing when you pay attention to them. You just have to know to pay attention to them, right?
Yes.
The Taft Building, 198 unit
Yes,
hotel.
your famous home.
That's
I used to
sold.
live
got
there.
sold for so much money.
Wait,
52.
you live there?
Yeah, I used to.
When did you live
I
there?
didn't know that.
when she was young.
When I was a young playgirl.
But that's
She
when
had
it
a
had already-
penthouse.
That's when the old hotel that had been shut down had already been renovated as part of the rebirth of the College Street business district across from the Green. It's a really lovely place, isn't it? Did
When
you
I
like
lived
living there?
it's very different than it looks very different than when I lived there.
Please tell.
When I lived there, I mean, they have a whole lobby situation. When I lived there, it was buckets and mops, and
That's a broom closet.
it wasn't fancy or anything.
What year was that?
Oh God, The late 80s?
Yeah, I remember I had a really interesting
Mid-80s?
encounter there in the mid-'80s. When Jesse
Mid-80s.
Jackson ran for president, his campaign guy was this guy, Mel. Does it ring a bell? No one had heard of him yet, and he was in New Haven. And I said, I want to interview you for the Advocate. So I went up to Taft, and it was kind of run down then. And the whole time we were there was a woman who I realized later was 16, but I thought she was 30 because she had so much makeup.
Oh.
She was really dialed up. And here was this guy, Mel Reynolds. He was sitting there giving this great interview about the presidential campaign. And I was thinking, like, what's she doing here? She wasn't talking about anything. Like, who's this person? And I wrote an article on the Advocate about Mel Reynolds. He became a congressman who got arrested for going to high schools and bringing in 16-year-old girls all the time.
Oh.
I'm sorry, that was a detour. I'm sorry. But sorry, the Taft sold for $52 million. The height of, right now we have this hot real estate market. It's upscale apartments now. Mel Reynolds' escort and Babs aren't living there anymore. But, it's like, but what was interesting about it is that we just reevaluated all the property in town. So this comes to one time every 5 years. You say, this is how much stuff's really worth. So if your property is worth a whole lot, you're supposed to pay more taxes. So if somebody owns a house in New Hallville whose property isn't worth much, doesn't have to. So you're supposed to be taxed what you think a property is worth, what it'll sell for.
Right.
They just said this property is worth only a little more than half as much as what it sold for.
And they paid like double, right?
They paid $52 million for something the city said, I think it was not $30 million, $28 million.
Right.
So in other words, there are $20 million worth of value they don't have to pay taxes on.
Wow.
So Rob N said, is that corruption or incompetence?
There was a really good discussion.
And I think it was, and it's neither. So you had someone
Yeah.
from Mandy Management who was rescuing someone else saying, when you buy a property, you're putting in future value into the counts, how much you're going to get later.
Right.
But that gets factored into a sales price. So I'm
Right.
not an expert. So I'm saying if it's getting for a sales price, when you're doing how much you're taxing it, you're saying how much it's going to sell for. There's all sorts of reasons properties sell for a certain amount of money.
Right.
That's why you should be taxed at. But who said this? We're not going to get into details of how many applicants at this point.
Oh, that was the person
Is
who
that
bought
the
it?
mayor?
Oh,
The mayor. 'Cause
I
that
promised Markeisha we would get to the
Sounds
story.
about white to me.
Oh, you
it's
missed it.
the
The
police.
police chief stuff.
Oh. Boo. I wanted a Boise Kimber quote.
It is.
Is that it?
He didn't say it, Kimber. It's about the Kimber lawsuit.
No.
He was there.
So Boise Kimber
I want a
sued
Kimber quote
the
because he
chief
had
of
good
police.
quotes. He was like, "Nah, that's stupid." Don't
Boise
talk about
Kimber
that.
sued the chief of police because he said
did.
the Board of Aldermen rejected the mayor's choice for chief of police. And
And the judge agreed.
right, so
Yeah.
so the mayor said, well, since you rejected it, that means I can keep her there forever. He said, what are you talking about? Because he was in the slow walk pretend applicant process, so I can keep her there forever. And he's saying, well, the law said I have to submit a name to you that you get to reject or approve. It never says if you're a stinky, sleazy, dishonest politician who's going to take the rejection and use that as an excuse, don't just keep it there forever without the approval. This law when they wrote the law, they didn't think, well, there's going to be a really bad faith, dishonest chief executive who just ignore what we just did and find an excuse to therefore just keep the person without the approval.
Not that you feel any sort of way about it.
So they went to court and they said to this judge, so the judge said, even though I'm not a lawyer, right? So I said, but this sounds crazy saying this, but they went to court and the city has good lawyers. So Boise Kimber's lawyer was there making the argument I just made. If they said in the charter, if they say no, that doesn't mean you keep them there forever. You'll keep you 6 months. So the judge said, so city lawyer, what do you think about that? If they say no to you for who's the police chief, can you just keep them there indefinitely? And the city said yes. And again, a roommate of one of the pundits was watching the hearing.
The court proceeding.
And the judge was amazed. The judge wrote a strong...
Yeah, the judge was
The
like,
judge wrote
wait
a
a
ruling
minute.
this week
The
saying...
judge was like, don't you come in here with
The
this
judge
mess.
said it's illogical. You got to be kidding. They call
Basically,
that
yes.
straight-faced argument. It's in law school. If you have no good argument, make a ridiculous argument, you can say straight-face, make it. I love your face. Anyway, but when you mark your straight face.
That judge was like, don't come in here with this.
So as a
foolishness.
result, we now have an illegal police chief and an outlaw mayor who's defying a judge. Like when George Wallace or Lester Maddox would bar the door because people didn't want racial injustice and they wouldn't want change. It's happening here too. So Boise Kimber held a press conference saying, so right after the first time, we followed Boise Kimber a long time as a community guy in New Hallville. It's not usually that he's on the case saying people in power aren't following the law. Right? That's not usually his role, right? He's to follow the rules of the law way it says. That's what he's saying here. So Mayor Erlicher had the press conference saying...
He's feisty at that press conference.
He's saying...
But he sounded
and
great.
his
People
argument,
bringing lawsuits
his
and
argument
stuff.
basically is anyone
But he was
criticizing...
like, basically, this politicking that normally goes on around here. I'm putting an end to that, essentially. Like, I don't have to listen to...
Well, he's arguing that it's not legitimate that the Board
This
of
is not
Alders...
what he really said, y'all, but this is
But
Markeisha's
he's
paraphrase.
been doing that since the BOA
Like, he's like
vote.
bucking the system, and this is interesting.
So he's saying the Board of Alders, which had the legal right and represents the city by
Yeah.
neighborhoods, legally said no. He's saying that was illegitimate. So now he's not following the law that says this law and ruling
See,
they're
the Board of
appealing.
Aldermen needs to come back with the hammer.
Why weren't they doing
You
the
said the
lawsuit?
smackdown?
If they wanted to change the charter so they could say who's the police chief, and then a mayor says, "Screw you, I'm going to do what I want."
We don't have enough talent on that damn Board of Aldermen.
Is it
Also,
talent
it's
or
a
courage?
I kind of marry talent and courage
Ooh.
together.
I don't.
So
Well, I actually
Oh,
think
maybe you're right.
I think the
talent,
initial
courage is a
vote-
talent.
I think the initial vote took courage because the board,
Yeah.
like I know the Board of Alders as a group of people who generally just rubber stamps things, right?
No.
Um,
If it involves anything with Yale, they decide what it'll be. Everything
that's
else,
true.
they don't pay
That's
attention.
True. That's
But
true.
also, didn't they
But
take
the-
this vote so that they didn't have to like talk about why they were doing
Yeah,
it?
they
They're
did
like,
voice vote.
So
But-
the voice vote. So
Yeah.
it wasn't that much courage, Lucy.
That's true. But
Because
from
with
the
courage, you
moment,
say with your chest. You say, I said what I said.
But it was a little courage. They were going back because as a police chief, they had to take a stand.
So I agree with you. It should have been them and not Boise. From the moment they made this vote, Justin has been throwing a fit about it.
Yeah. He doesn't like they did democracy.
No.
sounds
And
about
check-
white
or
to
check-
me.
checks and balances. So that's where this quote comes
Yeah.
in. So
oh goodness, this
a
job is
reporter said,
wild.
well, he says, we have this vigorous search process. Like we've invented 90 steps to it that we don't need to take. So it'll take forever. So that shows we're doing so much. Like we're working hard to get a new police chief, right? So, Tony Terzi, who's not like a mean reporter, he said, oh, really doing the search process? So how many people have applied? And that's when he said, we're not going to get into details of how many applicants at this point.
Thank you, Tony
Is that-
Terzi.
is
Shout
that-
out to Tony Terzi.
Is that
I
transparent?
wouldn't say.
Would the,
People have
It's the
applied.
simple questions that trip
People
people
have
up.
applied.
is the adjective transparent
People
come
have
to mind for
applied,
that
I'm not gonna
response,
tell you.
Markeisha?
Wow. Say that again.
Would you think that was a transparent response by a person in public position to say,
Is
I'm not
mud
gonna tell you? No, is it? Yeah.
It's obviously avoidant. Is
So
what
here's
it
a
is.
quote.
This
Ready?
city government is not into transparency. It has
They're
never
not
been
into
into
much.
transparency.
Quote, I love you. Close quote.
I mean, that could be anyone.
It was said in a courtroom.
Oh.
Najee Carmen Reynolds.
Yeah. The son
When he was born,
to his father.
he had never met
Yeah.
his father. His father had just gone to prison for, he's now been 28 years because he was arrested for and convicted of shooting 7-month-old Danielle Monique Taft, one of the saddest murders in our lifetime. It galvanized the state to pass gun control legislation. But now for the fourth time, he has a habeas petition saying there's new evidence. And there's a civil trial going on. It's heart-rendering in civil, but also really interesting legal issues that Laura Gillespie's covering every day, doing a great job and mining those.
Laura.
So in one side of the courtroom were the family of Danielle Monique Taft, who said, we never got to watch her grow up. And it was so painful for them to have it opened up again. It's the fourth time they're revisiting it.
I know. I read the piece when this is the first time they played the recordings of her mother,
Who was shot
and that was
as
the
well.
first time she heard her mother's voice in
Oh
a decade.
my gosh.
And I thought I would have fell to the ground too.
So they say we lost all those years and we're trying to move on. Now we can't move on because this is happening. On the other side of the courtroom is this son, the G. Carmen Reynolds, who said, I didn't want to get to know my dad, but then in high school I started writing him, visiting him in prison. And, now they weren't the legal deciders of this case, right?
Right.
They were just saying,
They were the
and he's saying, so what's at stake for him?
collateral
They're
damage.
both looking to move on in different ways.
Yeah.
Like if his father is innocent, he'd like his father out and to have his father.
Right.
And if he's not, the family would like to be able to move on with their lives.
I wish we could get in this country to the place of
Closure's
justice by
tough.
any means necessary, right? Like if we could somehow or other say we're going to exhaust every avenue to get to the truth and the heart of a thing.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So that we just don't accept whatever is put in front of us. I mean, I think this is one of these stories that is painful on both sides.
It is.
Painful on both sides. And
It
I
is.
appreciate the way that it was covered because it didn't sort of lean one way or the other. It
Right.
really
She
held
worked
your
hard at that.
attention
Laura
for both
Gillespie's a
sides.
great reporter.
So she was fabulous for that.
I just also I want to shout out Laura's reporting because I think we don't talk that much about the trauma that sometimes reporters experience
This
in
was tough
also
on her.
telling these
This was
stories.
tough on her.
Absolutely.
And I cried reading the mom talking about. So she now has 4 living children.
Yeah.
Was talking about how when her daughter, who is a senior at Wilbur Cross, crosses the stage this year, she'll be thinking about Danielle, and the daughter will also be thinking about Danielle, and that just it broke me. But also the son saying, I want to be able to have a relationship with my father, and I want to know, that also broke me. And so Babs, I totally agree with you that we should be pursuing a path to justice that is not what this country looks like right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I wish sometimes when you folks work on the show, I kind of see your words, and I feel like they should be permanently etched into stone.
somewhere.
You say such deep things.
Absolutely.
But then I want to make it a little silly again.
Can I just add?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So to both of your points, I think when we talk about criminal justice, we often do not talk about the collateral damage for all the people involved. I remember when I was a reporter covering court cases where, families are deeply involved in whether someone stays in prison or is released, right? Like, you really get to see the ripple of the trauma for the people who are holding space forever for whenever their loved one is either going to potentially get out of prison or never get out of prison. Those people are almost not stuck in time because, of course, life is still happening, but they are frozen in a moment. And every time they have to go to court, every time they have to sit there and wait for their person to be brought out, and every time the other family has to relive it, it all is happening for them again. And so too often people consider the court case the end of everything, and it's not. And we don't have a system that recognizes that people need something. Like, if prison is going to be the way, they need something. The people outside that support the prisoners need something too. They need something that is not like catch as catch can. They need active help in dealing with those things. That's all I had.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
and can I add something, or are we?
Go ahead.
But I think this, in some ways, also returns to the liquor store conversation. In a like the theme of today, and maybe of every pundits, is resources. We are a resource short country, and that is because
No, we're
We're
not
not
resource short.
We're not resource short.
We're will short.
Yes, that is absolutely. Thank you, Beth.
We might be
'Cause we
one of
got
the
the money.
resource richest countries
Yes,
in
we
the
got
world.
the money.
We are resource rich, and we do not spend our resources. Thank you, Babs. We do not spend them where they matter and where they should be allocated.
Yeah.
You guys are the best. But I'm going to get
Okay,
a
fun
little
stuff.
shallow
Let's
again.
go.
Okay.
Okay.
It's shallow.
We do shallow.
Look, this show ebbs and flows. You
Well,
gotta roll
the
with
stuff matters. Actually,
Gotta
these are
roll
serious
with it.
issues. Some are flying through there at 50 miles per hour.
Oh, that intersection?
Oh, the
The new we've
The
spent
new,
years. So we're
yes.
rebuilding the hill in downtown
Yes,
together
I
by
got one
sinking
for
a
the first time
highway.
in 3 weeks.
Sinking a highway. We're reconnecting streets that were unconnected. And we spent years trying to build a model intersection at MLK Boulevard and Orange so we connect, go over there easily, and build it in a way that's a little complicated so people come right off the highway to get
They're
them
like,
to stop.
nah, I'm running everything
And
over.
then have a light and let people walk safely. If you're old, you're in a wheelchair, you're on a bike. And the
Die.
first day, everyone was blowing the light. There were 4 car tie-ups, a crash, and Aaron Good clocked 27 times in 20 minutes. People were running the
Running
light.
the right.
Shout
the
out to
police
Aaron Good.
service
He's such a
responded.
good government dude.
So I have an outlier theory because I know nothing, so therefore I can come to big theories.
Got your tinfoil hat on?
Yeah, here's my tinfoil hat. It was the right thing to do, and just people got to get used to it, and they do get used to it.
Facts.
It takes a little work. They're doing some extra enforcement. They have signs up. That's still not going to work at first. People are going to get used to it. Cars don't have to run the whole world and have us all build around them. They can learn how to drive. Like when they close the exits, they're big types for a day because people are used to coming in one way in downtown. Within a week, it settles out. I believe this is still going to be
You
a good
think
intersection.
people will figure it out?
But
I
unfortunately,
haven't
I'm
actually
not
had
an
the
expert, so I could
opportunity
be
to
wrong.
drive it, so I'm looking. I
Yeah,
don't want to say
what? I
looking
should
forward
go
to.
drive it 'cause I
You should go
haven't-
drive it.
I haven't driven it yet.
Just drive
Yeah.
carefully, please,
Oh,
Yeah,
I will.
yeah.
because we need you back for pundits.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, who said? Sorry. I believe agency is one of our key cornerstones of democracy. We heard from community members, and we have to trust that people will vote for their own self-interest and to empower them to make decisions about their communities.
I don't know who said that.
Hamden Councilman Justin Farmer, when
Oh,
he
yeah.
and other progressive council members killed a plan to have the mutual housing develop a long vacant middle school into affordable housing. Working class, largely black homeowners in the neighborhood were against the project.
Why
'cause
were they
said,
against
they
it?
said it would bring down property values and the infrastructure can't
Oh, so
support it.
the bad soil wasn't enough? Oh,
and the abandoned building.
all right. Just FYI.
Quote, who said this? This volcano of out of control little stuff has bubbled to the surface. They want teachers to handle it.
Oh,
We're not equipped to.
I don't.
Something about school discipline?
Paul Versillo, the arrested cop who told his side of the story in Truman School
I read that.
about
That was
why
interesting.
this guy was coming at him, throwing chairs at him, saying he's going to beat the crap out of him because he took a cell phone. And then went after him in the hallway. He grabbed him and then shoved him back into a locker, and he got arrested.
Oh, that was the
His career's
student,
over.
right?
Yeah. No, but the teacher.
But the
got
teacher
arrested.
was
No,
the teacher got arrested, but the teacher
Right.
actually spoke to the
Let
press,
me
which
tell you
was super
something.
interesting.
If I'm a teacher right now, I'd quit.
There were
And they
three.
are
There were
written.
3 teachers arrested,
I would just
Yeah.
quit.
and in his case, it's
And they
clear
are.
that at the end he didn't act perfectly, right?
No.
So
Right.
everyone's saying he shouldn't have been arrested. We're dealing with arrest, like the other
Right,
2
like
teachers.
it seems really like
and the
that's
teachers
the
don't tell
go-to.
their side because the system has a disincentive to hear the teacher's side.
Right.
So there's another teacher who got arrested. We haven't put her name because didn't get her side in the Independent, who Babs and Marquisha and I know who's wonderful, and we know she's a great teacher. She got her mugshot looking like a criminal for something happened to her in People Magazine's example of terrible teacher.
Oh, People
There's another
Magazine's
teacher
like-
who's African American.
Painful.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
I didn't either.
Homophobic, taunted. Some kid threw a chair at a desk at him. Peaceful, great guy. A little video clip of that part without the rest. He got arrested. His career ended. Now, I feel for the kids. I feel for the teachers. Everyone's freaking out with COVID. The remote school had to be together. The schools
Yeah.
are not working. The security guard went to the hospital. Principal went to the hospital. Instead of arresting our way out of this,
That part.
we got to do something better.
I had
This is-
Matt
yeah.
Taylor on my show today,
Oh, you did?
who used to be the principal
Yeah.
at Amistad. Wrote a book about emotional intelligence for leaders who in the education place, and he talked about how we've got to get into the place of talking to teachers about how they are feeling about what the work that they're doing. Like checking in with them emotionally about how they are working through being teachers, because we are losing teachers.
Absolutely.
They're not coming into the vocation anymore because they don't feel unheard, they don't feel respected, and they feel under attack. And I'm with them because I know what it's like to be in a classroom with some of these kids. And I'm not suggesting that you should put your hands on kids or any of that kind of stuff. But I think there comes a point where the straw is heavy and it breaks the camel's back.
You guys are amazing. I just think you're on fire today. But I'd like to close by inventing a quote.
Uh-oh.
The person didn't really say this. I want to guess who you think I'm channeling. Let me say the whole quote because you can guess it pretty quick. The place to be, you really should have been there, was the President's House for the Hill House Campaign School, Yale Jazz Ensemble, the Aspera Con, Art Space, Love Notes Reception, Reverie Streets, Mighty Word Song Church, Wine Thief, Slovenia Red, Jazzy's Nick DeMaria, Coffee at Pistachio Fussy Coffee, Deltas at Bloom, and the Next Door Dinner with the Choir Boy Show at the Yale Rep while I saw In the Rain, a great exhibit at Colo Liddell,
good.
at Atlanta
Oh,
Studio,
my God.
while we were rocking out at
Listen.
Cafe 9
Yes.
and getting ready to be at the porch. Just what I did today. Who said that?
Babs Rolls Ivy.
Babs Rolls Ivy. That was a summary of what we publicly know.
Yeah.
She did. That was fun and great in the best city in the world.
I'm saying
the
if
best
you're not
person to
getting it
follow.
in, you're missing it out. You just are.
So you guessed who said it, Lucy.
Yeah.
Lucy always guesses.
Lucy's.
I
Lucy-
don't though.
She'd be
Except
good
when
for-
Babs guesses. Because if the
Listen,
story
I'm-
wasn't written about a
But
roommate.
I live
I'm
with
batting
the news.
zero.
So
Like
it's
live
okay.
one for.
And you 3 make the
You
news.
live with the news.
And
I
you
like
run
it.
down the news on Pundit Thursday. Thank you for joining us on Pundit Thursday. Babs Rolls Ivy, Marquisha Ricks, Lucy Gelman, Harry Jones, and Nora Grace Flood at the controls.
Woo-woo.
What a week.
What a week.
And another week's coming. But in the meantime, you guys are going to have amazing fun around town,
Let
aren't
me
you?
go over to Paramount, give me some more liquor.
All right.
Don't.
I'm getting some
Don't
nips.
do that.
I'm getting some nips at Whaley and Blake.
We're gonna get some high end nips from the wine thief.
I think we should just go hang out there and just see what happens.
No, Wine Thief's not supposed to hang
I'm
out.
hearing a word on the street.
We're
At
going to take
9:40 in the morning.
There'll be people there.
Oh, I know. I know.
There'll
We're
be
going to
people
take it
there.
out at the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all weekend long at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.